I'm going to start what?
I know you're kind. I know your tricksy moves.
Now you have to say Gollum.
Now I have to say what?
Gollum.
No, because when you say that, you have to say it like you're gonna puke.
Huh.
Good morning.
Hello, everybody.
My windows are not organized because you distracted me.
That's easy to do when you have a man bun on top of your head.
Oh, you're. Mm. Wow, I need to repent later for all the things I was just thinking. I'm not gonna. Good morning, Erica. Is it just Erica?
No, there's a
Really?
lot of people in there.
Oh, there's Penelope and Ren and Heather and Gary and Dr. Michael. Squishy for you, Ren. Ivan, blessings. Oh, it's nice to see that I'm not the only one misspelling stuff, Penelope. Sorry. And Miss M. I know, right, Emily? Seriously? But then he just shows me how sinful I am when he provokes me, and then all of a sudden my brain is filled with words that aren't of love.
Yes, I provoked you. Fortunately, I recorded the 10 minutes before the show, which we're going to watch right now.
No, don't do it. I have a reputation to uphold. Just Doc? Oh, okay.
Says the lady with the midget Nephilim cup.
I'm supposed to love you, whether I want to or not. Wow. It's amazing how easily triggered I am. I must be really weak. Weak. Okay. What is our show? I gotta find out what our show is about.
Oh, boy.
Well, what I don't need to hide my weaknesses. People know. See, I'll be the sweet one and he can be the sour one, okay? Dr. Mike. I'm trying real hard to be very kind, so don't try to say anything extra. Okay. Scripturally, what is bondage? Why were those murmuring people in the wilderness during the Exodus praising their lives? Oh my gosh, I was just talking about this yesterday too. Or no, was it yesterday? Or, oh my goodness. Well, with my kids. I was talking about this issue with my kids
Huh.
about whining and complaining about going back. It's so much easier back there.
Wasn't that the day before?
I don't know. Well, recently. Matt, where's Matt? Matt's here too?
Didn't you say hi, Matt?
I said, hi, Dr. Mike. Where's Matt? I don't see Matt. Oh, there's Matt. Sorry, you're blue. I wasn't looking for a blue Matt. Good morning. And Richard. We're all just like quietly distracted with the chat. So professional, hey? We should have our own show. Okay, I'm getting hot already.
Good thing there's 12 feet of snow outside.
You know what? It's actually been really, really nice. The other day it was like minus 50 million, and then it was like +1.
+1.
And Leno.
That's like 34 degrees in proper temperature.
Oh, see, Heather and Gary were just talking about this subject too. So what do you want to say, Johan?
I want to say good morning, everybody. What a blessed and beautiful day this is. And good afternoon for those of you on the eastern coast of the United States and across the pond for our big international audience. And good day for tomorrow when it gets here for those on the other side of the other ocean.
Yeah, see, Richard's in Canada. Yeah, all those whiners down south that talk about how cold it gets down there have no idea.
See, Erica knows what cold is. She's in Wisconsin.
Oh, well, except Erica then. Anyways, we're filleting. Bring it in.
Filleting with the falafel.
Did you have breakfast already?
So what did you tell your girls? You were just talking about how they were bickering in the wilderness?
Well, we were...
You sound like those ungrateful idol molters.
Hang on, I have to like press rewind and consider a little bit for a second. Like we were talking about, we're going through the Torah portion reading real quick, and it was the 18, 19, and 20. So I was giving them a quick recap. And I was using it as an example for like modern day, whining, just because we don't have this. Oh, it was so much easier when we were, I think it was a diet, our diet, eating well, eating good, eating smart, eating clean, not just biblically clean, but eating clean, making those really inconvenient choices that we find ourselves at the grocery store needing to look at the labels of things, because it's not just about eating clean biblically, but trying to go through this process of looking at the ingredients, spending an hour going shopping when it only could take you 10 minutes. I was talking to them about that. That's the angle that I was using. It's so much easier when we could just eat this and eat that. But what about the repercussions, right? Like, what about the repercussions going back to what was so easy, So I think it was to Autumn.
You would agree that they had a life in Egypt? Is that what you're saying?
For a time, yeah. Like, I think easy in the context of it was like, I know that the transfer of responsibility for finding water and food didn't fall on them as much. Like in the desert, they were in a different ecosystem. They were in a completely different ecosystem. Wells were sparse. Rain was sparse. There were not as many rivers. There was not as many wells. There was not as many, meat options, all of these things. So their dependency on Abba had to come through literally trusting him to provide their daily needs. In Egypt, it was easy just to go to the grocery store and buy a bag of apples or go to the market. You have their options. There were so many options that were made available to them.
Do you think, I'm getting a bad echo from you.
I'm sorry.
Do you think that they lived, do you think that they had a form of credit?
I'm sure some of them did, for sure.
Right? Just go down and whip out your
sheep
stonemason, whip out your stonemason signet ring, with your signature on it, and then they issue you your wheat or whatever.
Sure, there's always I think that's always been there, no matter where you go. Like, I know what that farmer has, and me and that farmer talked over the years, and that farmer's dad and I talked it, like, that's been there since probably forever.
I think I was thinking this morning about how when they went down to Egypt, when Joseph went down to Egypt, he went down to Egypt, and this is especially seems to be well told in Jasher, but it does mention it in Exodus or Genesis. But when he went down to Egypt, right, he went through all his trials and tribulations. Then he was set up as second in command over all Egypt under Pharaoh, right? The only person higher than him was Pharaoh. And after the famine started, and after his brethren and his father got there, after Jacob got there with his brethren, and the Egyptians themselves started running out of money, or started running out of food, he sold them from the storehouses for their gold and their silver, right? And something along the lines of their wealth increased substantially. But then they squandered that, right? That was then taken away. And that seems to be somewhat lacking in the storyline, how they lost that wealth. But then during the Exodus, after all these plagues were put upon Pharaoh, they're told, the Israelites are told, take all the booty you can, right? Take all the gold, the
Ask your
silver.
neighbor. Yep.
Yep. Take that stuff with you. So then they end up leaving with great amount of wealth, and apparently haul that through the wilderness for 40 years and go into the promised land eventually and get a ton more. And then they put all this wealth that they've accumulated, they put a lot of it towards tribute for the king and building the temple in Jerusalem, and also for the tabernacle, right? The implements of the tabernacle. But then what? Then they mess up and they lose it to the Assyrian, and then they get taken captivity into Babylon, and all the stuff that's taken out of the temple into captivity. And it was just, I was thinking about that. I shouldn't have looked at the chat because it totally distracted me. Anyways, they ate bugs. All right. Ran, what are you doing?
Stop it right now.
I'm going to make some chocolate-covered centipedes. No. Anyways. I was thinking about that. Look at how we are now. And this, I don't remember who exactly came up with this analogy for Pharaoh, right? But when it says something like Pharaoh built this and Pharaoh built that, no, he didn't. He sat up there in his portico and watched all the little ant workers, all the little worker ants building cities for him and temples for him and things like that. And where are we right now? In our Western society, right? We struggle. You know what? We struggle to go to work, do as many hours as we can because they've been cutting those back, and we're constantly buried in this mountain of debt, borrowing money to put a roof over our house, our head, and to buy our food and to buy a car, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right? But like Proverbs 22:7, right? The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. But what is that word servant there in other translations? Come on, don't you have like 42 translations right there at your fingertips?
Well, I didn't know if you were looking it up yourself. Hang on a second.
Oh, I am now.
Okay, what is it?
Proverb 22:7. The word servant in that scripture right there.
Un momento, señor. Oh, excuse me.
Oops. Did you burp?
Well, inside burp.
Ew. As long as we don't have hitchhikers.
A bed or haved, a masculine noun. Servant, manservant, bondman, bondage, bondservant on all sides. So someone that is a slave servant, servants of worshipers, servants of God or gods, prophets. So like literally, it's the literal meaning of someone that is serving, indebted to, or in bondage to.
In bondage.
Because there's two kinds of servants. There's a bond servant, and then there's just a servant.
Did you free us from bondage that we would starve to death in the wilderness?
You know, what's really interesting is that it's always food that seems to trigger people. No, okay, that's an absolute statement, so that's not accurate. Backward, yes, Richard, backward sneeze, it's disgusting. Anyway, we're always messing about food. We're just talking about food, whining about food. So let's manipulate the food source, and it's almost like you find out what you get when you start fasting, right? When you train your body to go without food, you see how much food can control your mind, can control the decisions and choices that you make. You've just been rescued from a horrible situation, and then you're whining and complaining because you want Twinkies back in Egypt.
Like Matt says, we're still laying bricks for Egypt.
Okay, I wanted to say something about that. Okay, so we should talk about that. What does that, like, I agree with Matt. Like, we are still laying bricks in Egypt. So if we're supposed to look at history, because history is like life is cyclical, right? Okay, so when we're rescued, in whatever form that means, from Egypt, what did the Israelites do? We should really look at that, because many of us might do exactly what they're doing. I'm not a camper. Sorry, I don't mean to poke fun at one of my friends, but she doesn't like camping because she doesn't like bugs. Right? So I think that what I'm saying is, like, if we really think about, okay, if we're still in Egypt and we're laying bricks and there's something that's going to happen that we're going to be rescued from Egypt, what are we going to do? Are we going to whine and complain when it gets really hard? Because we are super, like, I wouldn't necessarily call, oh my gosh, am I going to say that? Is it really a blessing that we have all that we have? Is that what blessing is? And I'm going to refer back to my conversation I was having yesterday with my friend last night. Like, what is blessing? Lots of stuff, comfy pillows and a comfy bed. Is that a blessing? oh my gosh, what's a blessing? A blessing is being in the wilderness and being provided your daily needs. But we don't know what that necessarily looks like because we're so comfy here laying bricks in Egypt. But we whine about it. Really, how different are we? Ooh, sorry. Feeling a bit of conviction. We are. Oh.
But that we're spoiled for the life we've been put into. We're right. And then Richard said too, that's why FEMA says anyone with more than 5 days of food stores is a terrorist. They want no food in the home. So when disaster hits, the people turn to the government. And it's ironic because Homeland Security says to have a 2-week supply of food and water. That's so they can get you coming and going. Oh, you starved. It's your own fault.
It is
you got too much food. You're under arrest.
It is like, I don't know who I'm speaking to, Heather or Gary, but yes, they said maybe it depends on how we use what we're given. It's, of course, it's that. I know, like, I know that when I've watched different shows about people helping homeless people, right? And this is the perfect example. You have someone giving, let's say they give $20 to this homeless person, and they're trying to test these homeless people to see what kind of character they are truly, right? So they give them $20 or $100, and they're really super thankful, and they're shocked that they got so much. And then they have, somebody over here hiding in a bush that's going to test that homeless person and say, hey, man, I'm so hungry. Like, do you have anything? And then that homeless person gives their $20 to that other homeless person without hesitation. But then sometimes we have a problem just walking by handing $5 out. Like, I mean, there is all these guidelines and rules and, use wisdom and all that stuff, but it is what we do with what we have. It totally is that. But I think sometimes the less we have, the more we give away. The more we have,
it's a burden.
It is. And that's exactly what I said to my friend last night. I said that there's a reason why I don't want lots. One reason is I don't want it to corrupt me. And
the more things you have, the more obligated you are to those things.
Yeah. Yes, right? Fasting.
If you have 100 camels, how long does it take you to feed 100 camels every day? Right?
Yes.
Weren't you raised on a farm? How long did it take you to feed the animals twice a day or once a day even?
At least 2 hours. But that didn't
4 hours per day?
That didn't include like the cleanup. Like that wasn't, it took a long time. It took a really long time. That's why, like, same with the whole reason that if you really know me as Gwen, you know that I've been pursuing this thing for years now. What do I want to say? Okay, in the 10 years that I've been living in this province that I'm living in, the first like 4 to 7 years, Abba has been showing me to be quiet and to listen and to be simple and all of these other things because of the type of healing he wanted me to have. But then all of a sudden now I'm realizing that I don't like my life to be filled with lots of duties and responsibilities and all this other stuff, because I get so distracted with all these really good things, and then I forfeit quality time with Abba. I forfeit hearing what he wants me to say. I forfeit that opportunity to talk to that person in that restaurant or in that grocery store because I have to move to the next task so fast. I'm purposely trying to make my life super, super, super simple and really be purposeful. And I am incapable. I'm totally incapable of having a full schedule and be fully present 100% of the time. I miss the boat every single time. I don't value that anymore. Because when we're called out of Egypt, okay, many were called out of Egypt. Many followed right out into the desert. But am I going to end up being one of those that are going to complain, oh, have you brought us here to die? I need food. Have you, like, I don't.
That's something else, though, that I was wondering about when I was thinking about while they were crying to go back to Egypt. And I can see a parallel today with, right? How long did they wander in the wilderness until that whining crybaby generation died?
Oh, yeah.
How long were they in the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
40 years. So 40 years, figure what? Let's use an average lifetime of, let's say 100 years. Let's say they all lived to 100 years old. So still, they were pretty old people then.
Yeah.
Were these people that had the Egyptian version of Social Security or whatever it is, pensioners pay? Was that that they wanted to just go back and, be able to get their senior discount? Some people relished the fact that they were free, that they were no longer in bondage. But there was that dissenting voice. And the estimate is, 1.5 million people fled Egypt in the Exodus. So if you have that 1.5 million people, and then how many died at Korah's rebellion? Like 3,000?
I thought it was 500,000, not 1.5 million.
500,000 men.
Oh, I see.
It's not counting women and children.
Women and children and so on. Okay.
Right? So seriously though, what I can kind of see a parallel with at least American society now, where there's people that are my age who are basically resigned to the fact that we've spent decades paying into Social Security and it's not going to be there when it comes time to retire. And I'm at a point anyways where I wouldn't take it, I don't think. It'd be nice if I could just get the money back, but that's not going to happen. Pharaoh doesn't let the money go.
Yeah, learning to be self-sufficient in, like, first of all, in your mind. But how do you do that without? I don't think we really can do that a whole lot until we unplug. Really unplug. Like teaching my girls that food doesn't come from the grocery store. How I can say that. I can tell them that, like, that steak doesn't come from we eat a lot of moose, so teaching them that food doesn't come from the grocery store. How do I teach them that if I don't literally teach them? Like hands and feet, teach them. And I think that us as adults, same with, fuel for our gas, our fuel for our vehicles. Like, how are we going to get around if we don't have a car? Well, we'll take a bus, or we'll take a taxi or an Uber or whatever it is. I think that the dependency we have is so exponential on the system of Egypt that we won't know what we're going to do when all of that changes. We're calling for being rescued. We want to be rescued.
I can't help but notice you didn't mention walking.
I know. Like I can't walk to work. My work is 20 minutes away. You know, I'm really thankful that I don't have to make those choices. You know, I think about if I didn't have my husband, I can't even imagine how hard it would be as a single parent. I cannot relate with single parents.
That's right, Melissa. Single mothers are struggling with being non-government dependent.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm on track with what is happening in the chat. Like, yeah, I can't imagine.
You know, another thing is that
are we supposed to be taking care of those people?
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, that's something too, though.
So that they're not
first,
in the
let me
system.
finish what I was going to say.
Okay. All right. Go.
Blabby wabby. Okay. Gabby blabby. Anyways, the higher ups, the controlling factors, people of our society have made us dependent on that society. A prime example, since you're talking about taking public transit, every city in the USA used to have trolleys, right? Cable cars, some sort of public transit, and buses, things like that. And beginning in the post-war period, in the late 40s, immediately after World War II, at least General Motors went around and started buying up these transit companies, like trolley companies and stuff, and shutting them down. Why? So they can sell everybody a car. Right? Isn't it about that time that people started promising a car in every garage and a chicken in every pot or something like that? And how were they doing that? With credit. Right? Borrower is servant to the lender.
So
the other part, go ahead, Gabby.
No, sorry, go.
No, please, go ahead.
Aren't we supposed to take care of them?
That was the other thing. Thank you for reminding me.
I'm scared to. I'm even scared to talk about it because you know what?
The government shutdown, right? That's another thing. The government has slowly supplanted through the pressure of secular society, specifically those proclaiming to be atheists, slowly supplanted the role that any denomination of church used to fulfill, which was feeding the poor, the homeless, the hungry, helping the single mothers, right? And then the government shutdown, the great irony. I was talking with Matt about this the other day. All these unemployed, these furloughed government workers that are now not furloughed anymore, but they were going to churches to get food. Okay, I'm done.
I think that it's a scary.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm scared that I'm even talking about this because, okay, not scared. I can feel when you know better, you're supposed to do better, and therefore you are accountable for what you know. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then it's sin. So I'm scared because it's gonna. Okay, so Yeshua says, true religion is feeding the widows and orphans. Says it a couple times. Or it's mentioned a couple times. I know Yeshua says it once for sure. Okay, so, and we're supposed to take care of each other. But we've been so burned by our neighbor, whether we know the neighbor or not. We've been so burned by family. We've been so burned by the system that it's so hard for us to help, right? I remember one of the things that we used to do in this church that I was a part of, ended up not turning out so good, and it made me really sad. But I used to go when I was working in the office. I found a resource with this clothing company in town where they were just chucking away clothes, like big bags of clothes, right? Because there was maybe a little something faulty with them, or they were discontinued, they had too much, whatever they were. So this clothing company had this massive amount of throwaway. So I would go to this company and ask them, I said, look, I work for this church and we do outreach in the community, trying to help, people that are coming off the street or whatever it is, help them clean up, get a good job. And a part of that is giving them clothes, giving them good boots or shoes, whatever, so that they can go for an interview, empower them, all of these things, right? And I mean, it started out really good. I'd go and I'd collect and I'd bring it to the office and I'd separate it and I'd have it there. And then when somebody came in that needed something, we were able to provide that need. But then after a while, people from inside the church would come and say, is there any extras left over? And they didn't need it. But because it was free, they started to dip into it, and it was acceptable by the leadership for people to do that. And then pretty soon we didn't, and I think part of the equation that was not correct, why it wasn't able to sustain itself, is that we weren't actively going out looking purposely for those that were in need. We were waiting for them to come to us.
Right.
And so I'm definitely, I have been feeling this conviction recently. No, not recently. I have for years, but it comes in waves. Like, just listen to what Scripture has to say. But if I'm so distracted with what I need and want, I'm not giving anybody free anything. I'm not providing anybody's needs. I'm not going to the old folks' home and visiting them, or going to the hospital. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not going to the jail, not visiting anybody in jail. I'm way too busy for that. Whatever. Anyway, I'm just sharing my personal, what's happening in Gwen's life right now. So it's like when we get pulled out of Egypt, we're going to be so like self-focused. What we're missing out on, like we watch these movies, or Gwen does. There's this catastrophic event and everybody runs to the grocery store and they kick and scream and bite each other for the last bottle of water, instead of like turning and giving that bottle of water to our neighbor. We're so self-focused of preserving our own life. So when we're called out of Egypt, we'll be so self-focused. We're like, I need.
Agreed. But I see too, I believe that part of the reason that the church has been supplanted with doing these outreaches is part of the great falling away. We see these churches now completely embracing sin, lives of sin, and refusing to, they're not talking about repentance or anything. And we're told flat out in prophecy that he, the good shepherd, will go into where these bad shepherds are preaching and pull his sheep out. And we're told, come out from among them. So we're going to be getting, I can see things aligning up to where we need to be. We're definitely in a transition.
I think too, like a part of our system as believers, like if we go, I remember it being mentioned, I don't know, somewhere in the Tanakh, maybe even the Torah, I don't know, where it says it's our responsibility. It's a part of it's a part of who we are. Like when we are harvesting our field, we're not supposed to harvest right to the corners. We're supposed to leave an X amount for the people that are walking by, that are sojourners.
Right.
We're not supposed to glean everything that we're planting. We're supposed to make sure that there's leftovers. And then on top of making sure that we're leaving leftovers, we're supposed to purposely, as our duty, as being kingdom set apart, holy people, we're supposed to, it's like, it's a prerequisite. It's something that should, it's like we feed our children, and then all of us get up and we have to make sure that we go out and make sure that there's something that we've done to feed someone else. It's a non-negotiable. It's supposed to be I'm so convicted about this. Hopefully convicted enough where it completely transforms, that it's not just lip service, right? Like it's something that we're supposed to, it's, I don't want it to be just something that I'm saying and it makes me feel moved and it makes me feel convicted. But then, I mean, if it doesn't do anything, if I'm not doing anything with my actions, then it means nothing. So yes, we're supposed to obey his, remember, we're supposed to guard his commandments and his statutes and his precepts. We're supposed to guard them, protect them, walk in them. And so it's a non-negotiable. It's something that we're supposed to do. You come into the family, into the commonwealth, it's your responsibility to make sure that you provide the needs of those people that are around you, if you're capable. But that's the question. Do we think that we can? Because if we give our last loaf of bread away, do we believe that Abba's going to provide us with another loaf of bread? If we lose our job for obeying the Sabbath, do we believe that Abba's going to provide another job? If we lose our house, do you think he's going to provide a cardboard box to make sure that you stay dry? Like, what are we all in, or are we not all in, Gwen? This is like, these questions are definitely 100% directed towards myself. Like, am I all in, or am I just serving up lip service? I mean, how long have I been in this nice warm house? How much have I been really out there, purposefully out there, making sure that I'm doing what I can do, whatever that looks like? I know I'm not doing enough. I know that I'm not, and that makes me sad. My family is so provided for. We live in Canada. We have a nice warm house. Sometimes our bills are paid and sometimes they're not. But I do have an extra loaf of bread. Why don't I find someone to give it to? What, so that my life constantly is an open road. There's something beautiful. I've done it before for a period of time where I've just, if I have five pairs of shoes, I'll go find somebody to give a pair of shoes to, or gloves, on purpose, so that it keeps my body and my mind and my spirit very aware that everything that comes to me is a gift. It's not because I had the ability to buy it. Abba gave me the money for the ability to buy it, but for myself only, oh, sorry, I'm rambling. I don't want to be the one in the desert whining and complaining. And I fear that I might be because of my behavior now. You sow what you reap, right? You reap what you sow, or whatever that is. I don't want to be the rich man. What is it that I can give away? I've done everything. Oh, God, forgive me.
Well, if it's any consolation, I started keeping stuff in the truck to give away.
Really?
You keep stuff in your vehicle to give away? Because I don't need it.
Oh, I'm going to cry. Woo!
Don't cry.
That's awesome. It's awesome.
But how much stuff can one person have? Seriously. You know, it's kind of like, what is it? Banks own, in the United States at least, banks own more empty foreclosed homes
Oh, wow.
than
Yeah.
there are homeless people.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. You know, like one of the things I say to people when they talk to me about how when they're at a low place, right, in their life, and they're sad about something or they're in a really dark place, and I always say, go find someone to buy a coffee for, you know, because it's not about the coffee. It's about putting our mind and our body in that position of giving, of serving. It changes the dynamics of your makeup instantly. Instantly something happens to your body when you do that, and to your mind and to who you are. It even if that person doesn't need it, you're just blessing someone, right? Like they have the money to buy that coffee, but you know, that whole pay it forward thing. Wow. It takes you out of a low place. It really does. I think if we did it way more, we would see just how addicting it can be. My kids love doing that. They're like, they're like, is that guy a homeless guy? Does he need some? Shh, he's not homeless. He just doesn't shower.
He's not homeless. He just smells funny.
I've had to say that. Well,
Leave
like
John alone.
we're walking in the store, and then because like I'm trying to teach them to look on purpose for someone. Be purposeful when you're looking at people. Don't just look at people. Look on purpose. And so my youngest is like, that's a homeless guy. We could give something. Shh. Be quiet. But they find joy in doing it. They love it. They love it. Anyways.
So, anyways, I wanted to give this praise out because dun, dun, dun. Oh, actually, hold on. Let me look at this real quick.
That's awesome, JJ. Oh, that's awesome, Erica.
Who did what?
Well, just looking at some of the people sharing about reaching out. I can't read them all. Erica just said, my friend just invited 3 homeless people to live with her, 2 adults and a 12-year-old. Praise you. Yeah, I love that. And JJ gave some clothes away. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's the bragging, Doc, that we're doing, but it's we live in such abundance, seriously, that we can't use all this stuff. Can't carry it all. You know, when it's kind of funny because when I was a young adult, I used to kind of pride myself on being able to throw my belongings in a large backpack to move.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
I kind of long for those days.
Me too. Because
especially with my first wife, with her, she was one of these people that had to move, that wanted to move. She just felt this intense need to move anytime a 6-month lease was up. So, got to be rather expert at moving in trash bags. at 2 pickup loads top, and we could move.
I don't
But
know.
now, couldn't even do that.
Yeah. I love, yeah. It really is, Jasmine. And I like your new picture, by the way.
I know. She needs one with Mr. Jasmine, too.
Like, it's the same for me too. Like, the more I have around me, the more I'm not distracted with the stuff I have, but I start to feel buried. And then I need to maintain the stuff that I have, like those camels, right? I start to feel like I need to maintain and constantly spend my time cleaning. I'm always trying to clean and organize and oh my gosh, it's never ending. It's never ending. That's why I like this whole idea of like moving into a tiny house. It appeals to me because you can't have lots of stuff in a tiny house.
That's not what Ted Kaczynski said.
What?
That's not what Ted Kaczynski said.
Why do I recognize that? Is that a bad dude? He's a bad dude, isn't he? I don't want to know. Okay, anyway, listen. Hey, what are you saying, Richard? What are you calling me? Are you speaking German? I can't read German.
He's speaking to someone in Turkey.
Brune Solef Evet. Translate, Buster.
Why is her hair like that? She's wearing a man bun. Why do you have that pick? Seriously. Your hair's in a man bun. Your hair's in a bun. Okay, I'll quit calling it a man bun, but
that's
it's in
right.
a bun.
Because I'm going to start calling you Get Behind Me. Because I always wear a bun.
To tell you if your bun's straight?
Is it? It's a little bit high today, isn't it? Look at that. Nice receding hairline there. I know. It will forever be on the web. Oh my gosh. Okay. What is bondage? Ask ourselves that this week. Do we have something in our life that's making us feel tied down or more dependent than we should be? If we're going and we believe in this second Exodus business, let's not take for granted that we're not going to be those whiners when we get out there.
Let's not take that for granted. All right. I'm going to pray out. Are you ready?
Duh.
Thank you, Abba, for this day, this time, Father, for this fellowship that we've been able to have with our brethren and sistren here in chat. And we thank you very much for all that you provide us, and extend that blessing for our necessary provisions for everybody in this chat now and later, so that they have food and clothes and all they need. And we thank you for that. Thank you very much for that. We want to give you praise and acknowledge that your people are rising up against the spiritual warfare that we see. Iowa had passed no abortions if there's a heartbeat. New York passes any abortion. And we know that your will would be that everyone you put in the womb draws breath. And just remind us that we can help take care of our brothers and sisters, whether they are in the womb or not. Remind us, and let us be let us share whatever burden that they have. We thank you for that, and bless everybody listening now or later. Thank you, Abba, in Jesus Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We love you, and we will see you for fifth day.
Praying, Jasmine. Love you all.
Awesome. Praying for sis.
Yeah.
Very good. We will talk to you all later. Bye.